Alright, I've had lots of requests to the Nutnfancy project, i.e. me Nutnfancy, dudes saying, hey, show us your everyday carry system, man. What are you currently carrying, to get some ideas. And that's what this video is going to be about. It's Nutnfancy's current everyday carrying system, and no, you're not looking at it. This is just a visual representation of what perhaps some other guys might want to carry. Maybe a Taurus 24/7 full-size 9mm pistol. I think this is a 9mm. Is it? Yep. It's not my gun. 9mm, yep. And then maybe an extra large Voyager Tanto variety. Okay. Now this is not my current choice, but it certainly would represent a valid choice for a lot of users. And just like I've talked to in other videos, we always want to work backwards, so to speak, in our systems. And now we're talking about an everyday carry system. In other words, something we're going to have on our person all the time, day to day. And it just depends on what your requirements are. If you're a farmer working out in the field, your EDC system, most likely, or at least it should be, very different than mine. If you're a sailor, EDC system, different than mine. If you're a troop in Afghanistan doing urban combat, your EDC system would be more complete, more heavily biased towards weaponry and different options than my civilian EDC option. Now, yeah, I'm a Leo 2 part-time law enforcement officer. However, I choose to carry as a civilian because it gives me a lot more leeway. I have a SOP I have to adhere to. It's very restrictive in a lot of different ways. Therefore, I carry as a civilian, and I can do that. And so most of what I'm going to be talking to is you civilian sheepdogs out there, or just civilians in general, different ways and different options you might think about in integrating and streamlining your own everyday carry system, EDC system. And I'll do that by explaining how I arrived at mine. Now, I show you this Taurus and this big old Voyager because in some situations, maybe this would be a good gun. Not necessarily the Taurus 24/7, which is a good gun. By the way, I'll review both of these separately. Hang on. In later days. But what I'm saying, a full-size 9mm, maybe 40, maybe even 45 caliber service pistol would be a good EDC option. That might be happening when we lose rule of law. I call it WROL, without the rule of law. Without the rule of law, I don't want to go with a subcompact pistol anymore. I want to go with something with more firepower, longer sighting radius, maybe a light rail that I can attach a light to, more capabilities. Along with that, maybe I want to go with a larger knife like this in that situation with WROL. You bet. I'm going to adjust my system to the environment I'm going to find myself in. You follow? But with the rule of law, i.e. society's running, and hopefully it always will be, we want that. We want to support society functioning, and we work towards that end as police officers, law enforcement officers, voting civilians. More on that in the future, but we want that to continue. But should it go south, and things go south, then guess what? We may have to change our EDC system. This might be a viable option. Actually, I would probably go even... I'd up armor from this, or up my armament even from this. This would just be my emergency armament here. I'd be carrying a tactical carbine with me in most situations. Probably concealed. More on that later. Anywho, what do I use currently under the rule of law as my EDC system? And I know some of you guys will be going, what is he talking about? Rule of law without rule of law? I mean, freaking what? Well, what I'm saying is when society is operating, just like it is now, and it kind of dictates how I'm going to carry. It's going to dictate my weaponry. It's going to dictate my caliber, how many rounds I carry. If things go south, all that changes. You follow? Same with my knife. Because the propensity of me needing them might be elevated without the rule of law. With the rule of law, truth be told, the chances of me having to draw my weapon as an armed civilian are very, very low. That doesn't mean I don't want to carry 24/7. In fact, if you watch my obligation of carry video, I say you have to carry 24/7. When I say carry, I'm talking about your gun as a licensed civilian, maybe as a off-duty officer. Same thing. You're both sheepdogs. You both have an obligation to society, in my opinion. And I explained that in my obligation of carry. But when I say carry 24/7, of course it doesn't mean like all the time, but I mean to the maximum extent possible, have your freaking gun on you. Okay, it's not going to do you any good if it's not with you. And just because we still have the rule of law, i.e. society is functioning, everything's going perfect, and man, let's keep it that way, it does not mean you shouldn't be armed, because there are plenty and plenty of examples of dudes cutting loose on innocent people. I talked about that in my other videos, and you'll see more from Nutnfancy about that in the future. Good to be armed. Remember, options are good. When you're armed, you have options. When you are unarmed, you got no options. You got your hands. You got, running away. So, anyways, enough said. So, with my system, this is going to represent society is operating type system. First and foremost, I go with the Kahr PM9, of which I've already reviewed in a separate video. Why do I choose the Kahr? Well, because it's lightweight. Fully loaded, this thing weighs 18.5 ounces, thereabouts. And that's with 6+1. Now, let's talk about my loads. By the way, along with that, even rule of law, in most situations, I'm carrying 2 extra magazines. Now remember, I said let's work backwards. What I'm going to do is set all my gear out that I want to carry, and then I'm going to show you the system that I've chosen to carry it. Remember, we work backwards. We figure out what capabilities we want, and then we figure out, hey, what's the best way to carry it? And your system may be different than mine. I understand that, but I'm going to tell you the pros and cons of things I've learned through the years when it comes to EDC and all the stuff I'm going to lay out. And you might learn a thing or two, hopefully. Not to say that mine's perfect. I'm always learning, always perfecting, but you'll see. Now, let's talk a little bit about philosophy of EDC gun. I have talked that in my mobility versus firepower series of videos that sub-calibers, i.e. 25 autos, 32s, 380s, even 38 specials, they're actually better than nothing, and it's much better to have those sub-calibers than not have nothing at all. But maybe a couple folks misunderstood, thinking that I'm a fan of sub-calibers. I wouldn't say I'm a fan. What I'm saying is I'm realistic, that it is better to have those than nothing. But as you can see, for Nutnfancy, for me, 9mm is the caliber. And 40 would be just as good. Actually, 40 is a little bit better. It's more powerful, at least. But the downsides of 40 caliber are it's more, you have lesser rounds, and it's less size efficient, more expensive to practice with. I'm kind of bleeding over into a different subject, and that is calibers, and I'll probably make some different videos about that when I get some time. But suffice it to say, for me, my EDC option is a 9mm, and I'm very happy with it. I think it serves the purpose well. 6 rounds in the magazine, 1 in the chamber. Then I've got 2 extra mags, 6 rounders. So 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1. I got 19 rounds total on my rule of law EDC system. Now, that's not a ton of rounds. I realize that. But keep in mind, mobility is a key factor. And the Kahr is my current favorite in striking that balance. It's a full-size caliber, very reliable, very accurate. But more, and just as important, not more important, but just as important, it's very easy to carry. And because it's easy to carry, I don't leave it at home. Okay? So enough about the Kahr. Subcompact 9mm pistol with 2 extra magazines. Let's place that over here. How about we're talking about weaponry options for Nutnfancy's EDC. What's next? Well, for me, this is too big for rule of law carry for me. It's harder to conceal. It's not really a weight issue. I think the Cold Steel extra large Voyager is lightweight for what it is, incredibly lightweight. However, it's just a little bit bulky. And more importantly, it's not, I don't think it's a realistic thing that I would need. And hopefully you guys get that watching my videos, is that I like to be realistic on what I envision needing in my EDC system. And day-to-day EDC, this is probably a little bit too big of a blade. More realistic is this, and this is what I choose. This is an Almar Eagle plain edge blade, micarta handle, no steel lining in that handle, not necessary, because this is my choice as a defensive blade. A lot of reach, and yes, I have a video out on this one. I'll tell you more specifics if you're interested. Good reach, super lightweight. What, 2.5 ounces for a 4-inch blade? That's amazing. Good clip, easy to carry, thin, so it fits in my EDC system well. Now, what you're seeing is everything is as trim and light as possible, and that's the Nutnfancy way when it comes to EDC. Heck, when it comes to everything, pretty much. Remember, I say I don't mind it being heavier if it gives me something in return. But when I can find a high capability item like the Kahr PM9 or the Almar Eagle that gives me an incredible amount of defensive capability for the weight that I'm carrying, I'll go with that. That's my defensive EDC blade. I want that with me. But that is not an all-around blade. There's a lot of things that this Almar Eagle cannot do. Therefore, I want a multi-tool with me. And which multi-tool? Well, if you guys have been watching my videos, you probably will not be surprised that I choose a Leatherman Juice S2. Yes, I have a review on this. I love this multi-tool. Again, why? It's size efficient. I get pliers for that. Almost full-size pliers, wire cutter, hard wire cutter, and I don't want to do a review on this. I already did one, but guys watching that haven't seen it will wonder why. I got screwdrivers, scissors. I got a Phillips head right here. The only thing I wish it had were nail clippers, but they don't have that. I got a cap lifter. There's those scissors. What great scissors the S2 has on it. Look at that. I like having scissors on me every day. That's just Nutnfancy. Call me crazy, but that's what I like. Leatherman S2 Juice. I want that bad boy on me all the time. And it's not that heavy. If I bring the scale out here, I don't remember offhand. Let me weigh it real super quick. 4.4 ounces for the S2 Juice. It is the best overall multi-tool that I have found so far. It is. I mean, as far as EDC, and I'm not saying, let me rephrase that, because guys are like, what? There's a lot better multi-tools than that. Yeah, there are. But I'm saying for small, compact multi-tools, I've been really hard-pressed to find anything that beats the S2 Juice. By the way, I like the S2 over all the other versions. I don't need the corkscrew dealio and all the other tools. This is the best blend of tools that I've found for the S2, the Juice. So, that's my multi-tool. I want that. Now, along with that, and it's a little bit lacking, the S2 is, in that it does not have tweezers. So, yeah, guess what? I want tweezers with me, too. And for you guys going, what do you want tweezers for? That's stupid. Well, if you've never had a pair of tweezers like this, by the way, these are just bought at Walmart. They're Lacrosse brand, flat tweezers, and they're very effective at taking out slivers, splinters, grabbing things where your pliers cannot do it. Very nice to have. Very inexpensive, stainless steel. They come with a little carry case. Tweezers. Lacrosse variety. Walmart. You can probably find similar ones out there. My friends in Europe too. So I want that with me as well. More tools. Well, you know what? I pretty much have a lot of capability right here. Truth be told. A ton. I've got a gun. I got my knife area covered. By the way, utility knife, I have that covered too with the S2 Juice. There's my utility blade. I do not have to use my Almar Eagle for that. And truth be told, the blade's too big for EDC use. Is that thing focusing? It looks like it's not. I like a smaller blade for EDC. I don't want a big old honking 4-inch blade to do my utility tasks with. I hate that. A little bit harsh. I don't hate it, but it's just not as useful. Don't know why that isn't focusing, so hopefully it is. Along with that, how about a flashlight? The one I choose is a Stylus Streamlight. And you can see, yeah, it's got a lot of use on it because I've carried it for a while. This is not the brightest, most capable light, but guess what? It's thin. Again, going with the mobility issue. We want something that's capable and mobile. And you know what? It gets the job done. It's not a Cree or a Luxion LED in this little light, but it puts out a fair amount of light. And it's so thin, it fits into my system, which I'm going to show you so well. This is a great little light, the Stylus Streamlight. The Streamlight Pro, which you see me, and I'll do a separate review of that, is even better. This is awesome. The Stylus Pro is what I'm saying. That's an even better light, a push button switch. However, for my system, the barrel is a little bit thicker than I want it to be. Therefore, I opt for this. I may change in the future, but I'm going to show you my system and why I made that choice. There's my flashlight. What do you know? That's end of part 1. This is Nutnfancy's chosen EDC system under the rule of law. And part 2 coming right at you. Thanks for tuning in. Sure appreciate you guys. Here it comes.